made it. Hey guys, this is Beth from Wanderful. This is our very first Just Got Back mini webinar. It's currently 1 o'clock Eastern time. So for those of us who are on the East Coast and Central time and even Mountain time, it's a little bit of a lunchtime webinar series. So we're going to have some fun today and talk to one of our awesome members about a trip that she just went on that's just going to blow your socks off. And so I want to introduce you to Kathy Polkrebeck, who is, you're out in Chicago right now, right?
Yep.
And tell us what trip you just went on.
Okay, so I just went dog sledding in Ontario, Canada.
So awesome.
In January, which is not the best time to go, but still super fun.
I feel like it would be odd, though, to go dog sledding in like July. So
it's true.
I suppose January is a good time.
Right. Yeah, as good a time as any.
As good a time as any. Awesome. Well, we're excited to have you. And the way this will work is we'll just basically let Kathy run. And what she's going to do is tell us all about her trip, show us some cool pictures. And if you have any questions along the way, you can always live tweet them to us using the hashtag Wanderful, and then we can ask them live. I'll also have a few questions to ask, so we'll keep this really fun. And if you are watching the recording, then you should be able to visit the YouTube link for both the live and the recorded session. So anyone who's watching live can always come back later, and anyone who can't watch this now will always be able to visit the recording later. So it'll be a great way for us to help each other as we plan really cool trips around the world. And with that, Kathy, I'll basically let it rip and let me know if you need anything, but otherwise I will mute myself.
Okay.
But and go ahead and try to see if you can get your screen share up, but go for it.
Sure. All right, let's see. It worked in rehearsal.
I know. You're just making this work.
Screen share. All right. Application window. Let's see. Come on. There it is. I think we got it.
Beautiful.
All right.
Gorgeous. Love the picture. I'll be the commentator in the background. Love it. Beautiful pictures.
Do your best, Tara Lipinski, Johnny Weir.
Just gorgeous. Go for it.
What are you wearing? All right. So basically, a friend of mine who actually took all these pictures, we went to Ontario, Canada to see the Guillermo del Toro exhibit. And she was like, let's go dog sledding. And it was funny because she isn't really a cold weather person and she didn't even own snow pants at this point. So that's how it happened. And that's a picture of us on the dog sled. I'm driving. She's the passenger. We had no idea one of us would be driving the sled, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And we went in early January. So we went to Sundridge, Ontario, which, as you can see, is just 3 hours north of Toronto. So it was kind of a drive, but totally worth it. And I've kind of framed this webinar as questions you should ask if you're going dog sledding, interspersed with pictures of beautiful scenery and gorgeous puppies. So we went with Sugar Dogs Adventure Company with Ed Schmidt. He owns it. It's a really small farm. He has 27 dogs, and that's him hooking up our dogs to our harness. And he is really passionate about his dogs and describe them like you can't like hang out with the dogs while they're being harnessed. He described them as like, it's like your office. Like you like some coworkers, you don't like others. If they get too close, you're going to try and bite them. So yes, the dogs are coworkers and have lots of personalities. So the first question is, what kind of clothing, equipment, etc. should you bring? That's what you should ask. And my answer is everything. As I said, my friend didn't own snow pants, and we're really glad she went and bought some. So yes, bring everything: wicking material, good boots, good socks, Yeah, and I'll more on that later, actually, a more detailed list. The next question is, how big is the dog sled farm? That's something that you want to ask your tour operator, because some of them, unfortunately, are the more touristy ones, are kind of getting to be puppy mills where they have 100 dogs. They don't really care for them like they should. They're just work animals, where Ed really, really, really loves his dogs. Like the first dog he had started out as a family pet, and they just kind of, he owns a bunch of land out there, so it just evolved into this, and they're really well cared for. And the middle dog, her name is Onyx, and she was hanging out in the warming tent because it was 20 degrees below zero without wind chill when we attempted this. Yeah. So it was kind of crazy. She never had gone in the tent before, but apparently it was just too cold for her too. So the next question is, will you be driving the sled or will you be a passenger? Our tour operator put us in teams of 2 and gave us a little bit of training, like about an hour. And then we're like, here you go. Like, he led the group, but I was driving. Adriana was the passenger, and the dogs were pulling us. And the dog sled was, as you can see in this picture on the left, a little more sparse than I had envisioned. Like, the driver is actually standing on runners. Like, you're not standing on a platform. And at some point, you actually have to, if the dogs stop, you hop off the runners and you run with the sled to kind of get them moving. So it's crazy. It's a very good workout if you're not the passenger. So yeah, that was surprising. And the next question is, are there warming facilities? And you will see this rustic little tent was where we went to go get warm, where we went to have lunch. There was a fire inside, and it was really, really tiny, which on a negative 20-degree day is awesome because you can take advantage of everyone's body heat. So that's something you should ask if you're going to be out in the elements, or if you're just going to have a little tent like this. So that leads us to our next question, one of the most important questions. Number 5, what is the bathroom situation? So clearly this is more important for ladies than for the gentlemen. And this is the most beautiful, picturesque bathroom you've ever seen in the whole world. It was not as picturesque inside, which is why we waited until we were back in civilization to use the bathroom. All right, so next is number 6. What else are you going to do while you're out there? Are there other activities available? And our tour operator offered snowshoeing and snow tubing, as well as dog sledding, because you're only going to be dog sledding. Like, we had an hour of training, and then you're supposed to have an hour with the dogs, but it was so cold, we only got about 30 minutes, which was enough in that weather. The next question is, how much time will you actually be sledding with the dogs? So like I said, ours was 2 hours. There are other places that let you go all day. Like, this was but there are like overnight trips. It depends on what the this is actually a little video that my friend took.
I'm doing a video if we can see each other.
So, and I will say, one of the most soothing sounds I've ever heard is being out in absolute silence and just hearing the runners go over the ice of the path, because it's pretty compact, and the little puppy feet like hitting the snow. It's so soothing. It's really amazing. So that was one of my favorite parts of the trip. And then, most importantly, the question that everybody wants to know is, can I pet the dogs? So clearly there are, everybody asks me, clearly there are, like, when they're being hitched up and they're disagreeing with their dog coworkers, or when they're eating, like, you know, they're animals, they live outside, so don't pet the dogs then. But afterwards, you can totally pet the dogs. And we had the chance, like we just walked over there and as you can see, quite gleefully hung out with the dogs. So
that's adorable.
So this was a super fun part of the trip. Was just to like go meet the dogs who work so hard to give us touristy enjoyment. And then we had a little doggy love fest where we went and hung out with them for a while. And the best part, I think, was the solo traveler from behind contemplating life picture, because everybody has to have one of those. And then there's us on the sled and this beautiful, dense, gorgeous, frosty forest. So that was fun. And that's me looking like I've just discovered Narnia, which it kind of felt like. And then just some other questions you should ask is how many people are going to be in your group? Ours was really small, probably because about 10 people dropped out. What's the company's inclement weather policy and how will refunds be handled? We booked this through Airbnb excursions, and then
Cool.
a third party who is connected to Ed, the dog farm guy. And they really couldn't give us an answer. Like we're like, it's -20. Even the Canadians are, a little concerned about being outside. And it was kind of shady. And we're glad we went. Like we kind of had to go. But just make sure you ask out front and ask if you can get a refund if there's extreme weather. Because, with snow, it's fun, but you don't want to risk frostbite. And then is transportation included to and from the driven in the snow for 3 hours by ourselves? Then what do you need to bring? Number 1 is snow pants for frolicking. And number 2 are good boots, and you should have a little room in the toe because the tighter your boots are, the less your blood circulates in your feet, and you'll get colder. Long underwear, silk is best, but anything that wicks moisture should be fine because that's another thing. If you sweat and the sweat doesn't escape, it will make you colder. Thin merino wool socks, and Ed, the sled dog man, told us to make sure that they're just washed because if you wear your socks a second time, they have sweat and minerals that block the socks' wicking capabilities. Adriana took all these pictures because of number 5. I literally watched as I held my phone in my hand and it went from 80% battery to 20% in seconds.
Wow.
So yeah, something I didn't even think about. So keep your phone close to your body, only take it out when you're taking pictures, and then get the little hand and foot warmers that, you can find in Walgreens or whatever. And that's it.
Did you bring goggles?
We did not. We brought sunglasses because there is quite a glare, but mine froze. Like they were plastic, and the plastic got all brittle and kind of broke into shards. So people did bring goggles, and I was surprised because it wasn't. They say like the first place you feel frostbite is on like the tip of your nose, but we didn't really feel frostbite on our face. It was more like our feet, even with our boots and our socks. So.
Oh, wow. That's super interesting. Yeah. So what did they supply? Did they supply anything for you to wear when you got there besides like the sled?
No. No, they didn't. And that was another point of contention with this company is we kept asking the woman, like, what do we bring? And she didn't give us a clear answer. So definitely be specific and ask like what you're expected to bring. I know the guy who led the tour, who was awesome, actually loaned girls 2 pairs of snow pants because they were from Yeah, they were from Lebanon and did not own snow pants. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
That's cool. Tell me, I'm curious, like what surprised you about the trip? Was it what you expected, or what was one thing that really stuck out to you that you didn't expect?
I guess sled. Like I haven't driven a car in several years, and I'm
Yeah.
driving. I was like, you trust me with your team of dogs who you clearly love. And I just walked up here and you just told me some commands and I'm driving this dog sled. And also how you and the person in they call it the basket, and the basket becomes like you and the dogs all form this mind melding bond. Because sometimes like the path curves and the person in the basket has to like lean into the curve, and the dogs
Oh,
just know where they're
interesting.
going. And yeah, so that surprised me too.
That's really cool that they let you drive. Like I've always assumed that if you go on a dog sledding trip, it would be like you sitting there and some highly professional musher, in charge. And so I think that's really cool that they let you actually drive.
Yeah, and I don't know if maybe that's a Canadian thing, like
Yeah, maybe
Canadians
not
are
a
less
US thing.
litigious.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or just more sensible, who knows. But yeah, I was surprised by that too. And I know there are two other places in the United States, like one that I know of. One is in Bayfield, Wisconsin, and the other one is in the UP in Michigan.
Hmm.
And they're actually on the same latitude as the place we went as Sundridge. And I know they do camping and stuff, but I'm not sure if they let you drive. So that'd be a good question.
Okay, yeah, that's great. If you were to do this again, Kathy, what would you change?
What would I change? Huh. Well, I probably wouldn't do it if it was 20 below zero. I'd probably ask if I could come back another day. Um, and the one mistake, they divided us. We had like 12 people and they divided us into two groups of six. And we stood outside for about 40 minutes, which was horrible because you're not moving, you're just getting instructions. And
Oh,
then
wow.
right. And then they're like, all right, get on the sled. And then you have to wait for them to hitch all the dogs up, which takes a while, and you're just standing there. So if I could do it again, I would definitely volunteer to be in the second group. So you get to go back into your little warming area and
Got
defrost
it.
before you have to go out right away. So that's one thing. If you're doing, or like just speak up more, like be like, I'm cold, I'm not ready yet.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. You're going to be outside for a long time in cold temperatures. So just monitor the time that you're out there.
I imagine that if you don't, like, if you've never been dog sledding before, you're probably just doing a lot of standing around, like, not sure if at any moment we're going to get up and go, or if it's going to be a while or not. And so I think that's really good information too, just to kind of set people's expectations.
And it is a lot of waiting because it does take a long time to get trained if you're driving. And it does take a long time to like wrangle all these dogs to sleds. So yeah, that would be my do-over thing. We actually had to come in because I couldn't feel my toes in a way that I've never not felt my toes before, and I really wanted to stay out. But I like my toes.
Yeah,
So
toes first.
yeah.
Toes first is a good policy. So was
Yeah.
it 2 hours of actual like dog sledding, or was it a whole 2 hour process from like the moment you arrived to the moment you left?
It was actually like because the weather was so extreme, it was 30 minutes of dog sledding. And even
Okay.
the dog farm owner was ready to cancel. Like he was kind of on the fence over whether he wanted to put his dogs
Oh,
out in this.
wow. Wow, yeah.
So it was an hour of training and learning what to do, and then like 30 minutes of sledding, which, kind of makes me want to do it again under more ideal circumstances. So,
Sure.
so usually,
But yeah, that's good too though, because I think right that it is such a product of the weather too, and you have to do kind of what's available at that time. It's like when you go ballooning, for example. If it's
right,
not good, you can't go. There's no way around it. Or you have to cut
right.
it short. Yeah.
And you just weigh your consequences. Like, do you want to be in a
Right.
balloon in inclement weather or like dog sledding when it's like minus 40. So
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Great. Cool. Well, this is awesome. Well, then, so my only last question for you is if you had one or if you didn't have one, then what would it be? What would your dream post dog sledding snack slash beverage combo be?
oh, that is that is the best. I think we went back and we stopped for burgers on the way. Like there's a famous on the way there's this famous hamburger stand where the places like the seating area it's 3 train cars. Like there's a cooking train car and then 2 train cars that are seating areas. And they actually the restaurant paid the government of Ontario to build a skyway across the highway because the lines in the summer get so long that it backs up traffic both ways.
Wow.
So we did have burgers afterwards, which were pretty good. But I think then we went out and we had beer. Like we're like, this is what the mushers must drink. Like we have beer and like poutine. So yeah, that's what I like to eat after a long day of half an hour of dog sledding.
That sounds so great. Well, and it sounds like you just had such a lovely time. How long was the trip in total? Did you do other things as well?
In Toronto, yeah. We went for 3 days and our main goal was to see the Guillermo del Toro exhibit at the
Nice.
Yeah, the Toronto, is it the Toronto Gallery? Ontario Gallery of Art in Ontario. It's AGO and Art Gallery Ontario. And that was amazing. And we found out it only stopped in LA, Minneapolis, and Ontario. And we had missed LA, Minneapolis. And it had his costumes and its inspiration. And he replicated a room in his house where it rains all the time.
Oh my gosh.
He has a rain room where he has the sound effects going and he has the windows covered and he projects onto them raindrops. So that was fun. And Toronto is an awesome food city. Like I think we have pretty good Asian food in Chicago, but it's nothing compared to Toronto. So we had lots of noodles and lots of great Korean food, and dog sledding took a whole day. And then we hit some of the markets another day. So it was a jam-packed trip for sure.
Cool. Well, sounds like you had a really good time, and thanks for taking a little time to share it with us too. Now I'm like looking outside where there's no snow on the ground, and I'm like, let's go dog sledding. Yeah. I bet if you hook my dogs up.
Start training them.
Start training them for the Iditarod, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
Get them on there.
I bet there's still snow up in Ontario if you want to go.
Yeah, no, I wonder actually how long their season is. That would be something good to look up too. I imagine it's got to go decently long in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. Great. Well, thanks so much, Kathy. And thanks to all you guys who tuned in. I hope you found this really useful. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and comment on the event, or we also have a thread in our Facebook group, Wanderful Women Who Travel. So you can always throw your questions in there too, and we can get back to you on those. But
yeah,
with that, I'll let you go. How does that sound? Any last comments or things you wanted to share before I do that?
I think everybody should go dog sledding. And I don't think it's I don't think a lot of women do it either. And the learning curve was way easier than I thought it would be. Like I was super nervous and my friend was like, I'm not driving. So it kind of fell to me. But the learning curve was really like, I got it. Like I want to go on a multi-day trip, I think, or at least a day, longer than half an hour.
That's awesome.
And just like, we felt so good about supporting this small business, like this guy who just loves his dog so much. And so, yeah, small businesses, really cool. Dog sledding, do it.
Cool. So this company in particular, you'd recommend?
I would. Mm-hmm.
Great. Awesome. Great. Well, thanks, Kathy. Thanks, everyone else. Have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you all soon. Next week, we're talking with Sunny about her road trip around the U.S., so stay tuned for that. Should be fun. Bye, guys. Thanks, Kathy.
Bye.